Welcome back to the Ecuador Insider Podcast. Jesse Bayer, Carl Marsan to my right, Ryan Pemberton, Brandon Podkova. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you do enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel, hit like, hit the bell so you get the notifications. We do pump out a lot of content. That content will be increasing in the coming weeks. And we're excited to be back. So today's episode is Q&A. So we solicited some questions on our YouTube channel. A lot of great questions came in. So we're going to really cover a very wide-ranging variety of topics. Before we do that, we do have 2 dates for retreats coming up. Carl, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So December 28th, this month, we have our next retreat. It's going to be super fun, and we're excited for it. There's a few spots left, so if you guys want to sign up, click in the description down below. We'll have a link for signups. And then the next one after that is on March 10th of 2023. It's going to be a lot of fun as well, so we hope to see you there.
Yeah, and the retreats these are the Vilcabamba Lifestyle Retreats. These retreats are designed to give you as a 9-day, 10-day experience, 9-day experience, really a full immersion into life, culture, the areas. We have a ton of expert panels, Q&A, presentations. It's really a well-designed package. We've got a lot of downtime built in, massages, relaxing as well. You really get a full sense. You come, you spend 9 days, you go home with a full sense of both the legalities, the feel, the culture, the real estate, visas. We cover a really wide range of topics to get you guys, get your feet on the ground and really understand what life is like here in this region of Ecuador.
These are the things that I wish you guys would have had before I moved down. Like, after seeing what's involved in the retreats and all the information that gets shared, there's so much value there. It would have saved my family a bunch of time, a bunch of headaches. And I knew you guys just didn't share the knowledge with me. Thanks.
We tried.
But the retreats, yeah, I wish they were around. So if you are thinking about coming here and checking out Vilcabamba, the Lifestyle Retreat is a phenomenal educational piece.
Yeah, we've had a lot of really good feedback from the first 2 retreats we've done. A lot of people have decided to move here as a result. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of great friendships made.
That's right.
And, we're just looking forward to more retreats, more people coming down and seeing you guys here someday soon.
So without further ado, let's get to it. If you come from a country where punctuality is part of daily life, how do you find out and learn as quickly as possible about the right space of time between the fixed appointment time and the time you really should be there? Are there differences between appointments with public institutions, doctors, or companies and private appointments? So, great question. We're all chuckling because it is different, right? Here versus back home. And there is probably some nuance we'll get into with this answer, but obviously the question is, hey, what about time, right? It's Latin America. This is a Latin American country, and Ecuador certainly is no different than other countries in Latin America. There is a different relationship to time. Being late is culturally acceptable. Canceling or not showing up to appointments is culturally acceptable. It's not that everybody does that, but it is culturally acceptable. So you're not going to be, thought of as a terrible person because you missed something you had planned. No, if the party starts at 2 p.m., 3, 4, 5 o'clock is kind of when people are going to be really rolling in. That is part of the culture here. But I will say when it comes to work, there are a lot of people who are extremely punctual. And, you kind of find those people and you work with those people. But culturally, yes, you're going to be, you get to relax because you don't have to be all stressed out about being 5 minutes late. Which is nice, but also, yeah, you're gonna have people. You gotta change your attitude a little bit in terms of time because there's more flexibility here.
Yeah,
right. I would say the appointment setting and the time piece for the doctors, the healers, the energy workers, the folks that are doing healing modalities and massages. Those are pretty punctual. I've not seen a not punctual version of that here. So those are definitely there's a dichotomy between everyday life and services and values like that.
Yeah, I will say we've hired a lot of people, cleaning ladies, gardeners, and I can't remember a time where they were not on time.
That's true.
Actually, they usually show up right on time. So I think for work, Ecuadorians are expected to arrive on time.
Oh, yeah.
But for things like social activities or, sometimes other types of business appointments, you know, there's some busy professionals. I mean, I've showed up late at some meetings, and other professionals I've met with as well, so it can happen.
What about the municipalities? I've noticed when closing on properties, potentially the notary says, hey, we'll close at 11 and by 3 we're done because they were doing one thing or another, backed up with clients. And so it's kind of like maybe they overlook their schedule sometimes depending on the line of work, and therefore things just get pushed out. And so there's that.
I would say also they usually will attend you if you're in front of them, but if you're like, you know, on the phone, like we're going to arrive at that time, like you're not there in front of them, so they'll attend the people that are there already, right? So there's already a lineup. At the notary, let's say, you have to wait for the people who arrived first.
Yeah.
Hey guys, just be cognizant of the table. I'm noticing every time hands are going up and down, the camera's jiggling, and yeah. So, all right.
I don't jiggle. I float.
There you go.
See, I went back to the LL Cool J. They're jiggling, baby.
Gives you an idea of how old we are.
Right. I don't know if we're editing this or not, but if you see it, there you go. All right. When do you expect the next podcast to take place? By the way, your Thanksgiving celebration looked wonderful. Hopefully next year I can help. Awesome. We'd love to help. I didn't see any pumpkin pie. That's right. I think we all kind of lamented the lack of pumpkin pie.
There was actually some pumpkin pie. A lady was like, she heard about the Thanksgiving thing. She's like, I made some pumpkin pie. And she like made one pie. So clearly we couldn't share that with 900 people. But
she shared it with us. Thank you, Ellen.
Yeah, thank you, Ellen. That was awesome. Delicious.
No, but it was a great event. We appreciate everyone who donated, and we look forward to seeing you down here next year. Okay, about Vilcabamba's infrastructure. How far is the closest gym from Vilcabamba?
I don't know anything about gyms.
Hey, Carl, where's the gym? Is it that way?
These guys. No,
there's a gym like 5-minute walk from downtown. It's pretty close.
It's in town.
It's in town.
Yeah, it's in town.
Yeah, that's the only gym really that's like a public gym that you can go to. I guess it's a private gym, but it's open to the public.
What about Loja?
There's a whole bunch of good gyms in Loja. Like, really modern gyms. The one in Vilca is good enough. It's actually, you can get a really good workout, but certain times you don't want to go because it's packed. You want to go on down times. When the Ecuadorians get off of work, it gets a little busy there. You can't. It's a little harder to get a good workout.
I would say the local Vilcabamba gym, the weights aren't heavy enough for Carl. So if you're really super strong, like maybe you need to go to Loja.
All right. That's good. Carl just blushed. Is there an opportunity to play a variety of sports in the area, such as volleyball, tennis, archery? Well, I mean, those three, certainly yes. And then, of course, the answer is yes to many sports beyond that. The only sports you would have a hard time finding here, which I heard recently they're starting to do now, is baseball.
Right. And they started that in Loja. Yeah.
Right. They play baseball a little bit in Guayaquil. I don't know about Quito, but in general they don't play baseball here. But that's about it. I mean, American football. You know, you can get together with your buddies, but there's not like leagues and stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting they include archery. There's actually an archery place in Vilcabamba where my son does classes there. It's really fun and it's very unique. I don't think there's one in Loja, but there's definitely one in Vilca.
Right, and they have clay tennis here. They have ping pong leagues. There's equivolley. There's basketball.
We're getting pickleball going too. So
pickleball,
that's up and coming, right? Yeah, there's a lot of.
Yeah, there's going to be ultimate frisbee this weekend.
Ultimate frisbee.
Yeah. Ultimate. Yeah.
You have to get on some WhatsApp groups or Telegram groups, and you can see the different activities that are popping up here and there. But
and of course, soccer. I don't know if we mentioned soccer, but soccer's been pretty popular. Both my children play soccer. Sully plays soccer too, right? Yeah.
How far is the next pet groomer and vet? Is veterinary care high quality in Ecuador? It's a great question. I didn't have a ton of experience with vets back home, but they're good here. There's several vets in Vilcabamba. There's a million in Loja. And there's good care. Maybe one of you guys would be able to compare it better than I would.
Yeah, I would say the care is good. My dad's actually a veterinarian, so the bars are kind of high, but it's actually pretty good. No, they're good. They might not know everything. They don't have all the super high-tech stuff that they might have maybe in Loja they have a little bit better level of care. But I don't know about a pet groomer though. Is there that in Vilcabamba?
In Loja there is, for sure.
I know we've had one. I remember seeing a sign for it, but then it's been replaced, so I don't know where. that person went. I've been talking to some people who are considering coming down who are dog groomers or can groom dogs. So it's something we need. So if you're a dog groomer, come on down and provide your service. I would bring my dog to you.
Yeah, you mentioned you had your dog trained.
That's right. Yeah, we saw it on Facebook, an ad. There was some dog trainers. You drop your dog off for 3 weeks, and they take care of it for 3 weeks and train it for $300, which is really cheap. I would say, yeah, she was definitely more trained. That being said, you know, she was still a puppy, I guess. Maybe this is the age or something, but you know, we have to continue training, of course. But yeah, that's available, so that's good.
Yeah, and in Loja they have all the doggy hotels or pet hotels and groomers and all that stuff. There's many of those in Loja.
And even the local Vilcabamba vets, we have 3 cats and a dog, an older dog, and they have all kinds of boutique food that they're importing. So you have really high quality food. If your animals have special diets or special needs, they carry a lot of that stuff right here in Vilcabamba at good prices too. So yeah.
Yeah.
Natural disasters, are they common in the area? Are there volcanoes nearby, and are there occasional landslides in the mountains? So no volcanoes in this region. One of the things that was on my list when I moved here was to not live next to a volcano. Those are all up north, or on the coast. Also in the north, actually. Yeah, landslides would be basically I guess flooding to some very small degree, but landslides and flooding would be the only, anything you could refer to as a natural disaster here. They don't happen really hardly ever, but if there is going to be a natural disaster, yeah, it's the side of a mountain during rainy season when it's been pouring rain that starts to come down. So
but not really here though. Not like much. In Vilca, not like these,
no, not in Vilca.
Not right here. So if you're considering moving to Vilcabamba in this valley, then flooding and landslides aren't going to affect you. It would be like if you're driving throughout the rural areas, like, I don't know, like on your way to Zamora to the Orient, something like that.
Yeah.
But
it's usually when there's a main road cut in the mountain, the angle of the mountain, now there's a big cut, so now all that pressure, and if it rains hard, it will fall down. But it usually gets cleared within a day, typically. They'll open one lane. Now, just, want to be clear, there are some properties right on the river, on river level, that have gotten flooded in Vilcabamba.
Sure,
it's not common, but there's some areas that is more prone to that, but it's very rare. Especially when there's a big, wash up the mountain, the river grows really fast, and some properties have gotten some floods. Yeah,
and there's mitigating steps. If you're looking for those types of properties, they can do soil tests, they can see the density of water, and there's things you can do to make good decisions on not.
And same thing, if you build right off the side of a mountain that's prone to landslide, you make a big cut in the mountain, you could have that issue as well. You just want to be wise, and nobody does that. But
I've been watching this YouTube channel that showcases natural disasters around the world, and I've seen some landslides, and I think potentially that's what this question is stemming from. Do we have landslides? Should they be concerned moving here that there would be a natural disaster, a phenomenon that would come against them? No floods, no landslides in that sense. It's just the river might come up, and it's like if your house isn't on stilts, well, you're gonna have to clean out your house with water potentially, or it might just go around your house. But one thing we didn't talk about was earthquakes. And there are earthquakes on the coast, on the Ring of Fire there, and some in the Amazon, in Peru a little bit. That's the east and north near some of the volcanoes. But in this area, we've not really registered anything above probably around a 4 on the Richter scale. We've experienced a couple where we kind of feel it, see some pots and pans shaking, but we're not prone to getting any of the big ones. So that makes me feel comfortable living here, kind of in a natural disaster-free zone.
Yeah, that's right.
And just to touch on the rivers for a thing, because when I moved here, from the Midwest, my vision of a river is not the same as a river here. Rivers kind of in this region are more like what we would call creeks back home. So they're not this big raging river. They're like, oh, it's coming. No, it's all right. That's a river. Okay.
It's up to your ankle.
Right.
So most river you can cross by foot.
Walk
except
across
if it rains really hard. But most of the year you can cross them.
There's some deep rivers when we went rafting in the Amazon. Those are real rivers. That's pretty awesome.
Yep.
But
All
local,
right. About owning a car. Is the cost of purchasing a car and insurance comparable to the U.S.? In general, buying a car is a little bit more expensive than back home. Both new and used, but more so for used. Insurance is much cheaper. So, you might spend to insure at the high end, to insure $50,000-$60,000 vehicle, you might spend $500-$600 a year, something like that. That ranges, obviously. We can help you and get you quotes, but it's cheaper than back home for sure.
You don't need insurance, by the way.
Right.
So you can you can drive a car without insurance, as most Ecuadorians do.
Yep. Cool.
Oh, can I say though that when I bought my used Toyota RAV4, it was double the price of what you could find it in the States. So like Jesse was saying, more so on used cars, like you're gonna pay double in some instances for like a nice car. I consider a Toyota a good car to buy here. The parts are available, it's trustworthy, and yeah, the taxes are just higher. It's more expensive to register your car. They consider it like a luxury item in Ecuador, whereas property taxes are 0.01% of the municipal assessed value. That's not very much, because Ecuadorians a lot of times are land rich, but technically pretty poor. So like property taxes aren't that expensive, but if you want to buy a car, they're going to get you on the registration fees each year and that kind of a thing. So if you're buying a brand new car, you're going to pay a lot in taxes if it's over $30,000. So a lot of deals on new cars are $29,999, and you can save on taxes that way.
Sure.
And importing cars is expensive too, because it depends on the make and model and the year. And there's like an import fee that it ranges from like 10 to 40%, I think, and then there's a value-added tax that's like 15% on top of that. And it's like anything over than 5 years, there's like another 10%. It's crazy expensive to import.
But I just want to clarify: can we as foreigners import cars?
We cannot.
We can't, basically, right? But
he was talking about like Toyota importing cars.
For them,
so that's why, So new car prices.
Yeah, the import taxes are very high. I think it's up to 40% or whatever.
Yeah, just to clarify, foreigners cannot import cars in a container into Ecuador. No, you cannot bring your car here.
Yeah, but the good thing is cars don't lose their value. So your car you have, whenever you bought it, you could probably sell it for close to what you paid for it.
I can pretty much sell it for exactly what I bought it for right now.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah. It's like 2-3 years later, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Next question is about weather. So weather in this region and the difference between seasons. So first of all, right, we're in the land of microclimates. You go up and down in elevation and the weather changes pretty quickly. So we're in Vilcabamba, obviously, right now. That's part of the valley that you're looking at behind us. If we go up this way into Moyapamba and then Yasanga, which is still neighborhoods in Vilcabamba, if you're at the top of Yasanga, for example, you're about 10 degrees cooler than down in the valley, but you're a 10-minute drive or so from the valley. So it's really determined by elevation for the most part in this region. And then there's a lot of little differences just in terms of rainfall. But in general, if we're talking the valleys outside of Loja that are more like Vilcabamba, Kinara, Malacatos, those kinds of climates, your daytime highs are generally speaking mid-70s to low 80s. Most of the year. You'll have an occasional day where you get up to 84, 85, 86, but it's not very common. And then you'll have an occasional day where you only hit 70 or 72 or 68. Again, not very common. It is slightly cooler during winter here, which is summer back home. So
the dry season.
The dry season. So June, July, August are a little bit cooler, marginally so. Can be a little bit windier during that time of year as well. That's also dry season. You generally speaking, although this year we didn't have this at all, but generally speaking, it stops raining in June and then it doesn't rain again until around October, November. And so that's kind of the climate. Nights can be cool, so you can definitely have nights that drop down in the 50s. Other nights will be in the 60s. So nights can be cool. You also have warm nights where it'll be high 60s, low 70s. But that's kind of the climate in these valleys. And you get into Loja, you go up in elevation about 1,500 feet, quite a bit cooler nights, cooler days. more variation, right? So you could have it could be cloudy and cold and rainy and windy 1 minute, and then hot and sunny and beautiful the next. That's very common in Loja and some of the higher elevation cities. Cuenca, Quito are like that as well. So yeah,
the cool nights here. Oh, I like the cool nights. You leave your windows open all day. It's comfortable, and then at night it cools off. Pull the covers up. It's still,
I mean, it's literally perfect.
Yeah.
You know, you go to Cuenca, like we bring our heaters and our down coats because it gets too cold at night. That then, you know, up until like 10 or 11, it's still pretty cold. Yeah. Especially 8 a.m. if you're going out, like it's cold and the ground is cold, so therefore the floors and the tiles cold. And anyways, we don't have that here in Vilcabamba. It's just that the daytime heat doesn't extend into night hours, so you get that nice rest.
No, there's an interesting dichotomy too between the temperature at night and then how much of the stars in the sky you can see. Because I've noticed when it's super clear, the sky is gorgeous here at night with the stars and the planets and the moon and everything. But it gets cooler because it doesn't hold the heat in.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, next question is about prices. How are asking prices for your listings determined based on comps, an estimate, or just what the owner feels it's worth? Yeah, great question. So first of all, just to talk about comps for a second, unfortunately in Ecuador you don't have comps, and that's because the real sale price of properties is not recorded, because it's common practice in Ecuador for people to declare the lowest allowable amount on the deed when the deed changes hands, and that's just for tax purposes. So there isn't an official record anywhere of what land was bought and sold for. Therefore, there's no database of comps. So that is a difference between here and other markets. There is, of course, however, a market, right? So if in any particular area, people have an idea of what land is worth based on the characteristics it has. So the area will have, you know, sort of a price per square meter or a price per hectare, depending on the size of the land. And then within that, there's quite a bit of variation for characteristics, right? So how flat is it? How close is it to town? How much infrastructure is there already on it? You know, does it have water, for example? Does it have electricity, etc., right? All the normal stuff that would go into pricing real estate. And so for us, you know, we've been in this business now going on 10 years. So, you know, we understand the market really well, right? So when people come to us with properties, we know immediately that area, and based on the characteristics, we have a range of what it's worth. And then we take it from there in terms of, hey, if they're asking for way too much, it's something we're not going to be interested in listing. Sometimes it's a great deal and we're really interested. You know, sometimes it's somewhere in between. Often we have to talk about prices with people. You know, our strategy sort of as a real estate company, we have sort of a whole protocol for how to get the best prices on listings. So we kind of operate through locals for the most part in order to secure, you know, the best prices for people. But yeah, at the end of the day, unfortunately, like if you're in another part of the country that we're not working in, or if you're just in Ecuador looking to buy land, you have to get a sense of the market to get a sense of the market. There's really no other way to do it because there aren't any comps. So it just comes with time and experience, understanding, you know, what's worth what in what area based on the local market.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, you know, we do have sometimes sellers who think their property is worth something and they're not really willing to list it at a lower price. And the strategy that I've adopted is, you know, we'll list the property at the price, but when there's a real live offer on the table, people are typically willing to negotiate. Plus, if the property's on the market, sitting there for a long time, typically they're willing to negotiate as well. So we do have properties that are, you know, in my opinion, maybe are a little overpriced. The majority isn't, but that could happen in some cases. It is what it is. And then there are people who value things that it's hard to put a price on. You know, if there's a spring on the property, or if the view is the best view that you can, or there's a lot of privacy. Like some people will add a value, especially foreigners will add a value on a property because it has those characteristics. So, you know, those types of things do happen.
Okay, can you talk about poisonous insects such as spiders?
Ooh, No.
Basically, it's
Basically,
the Amazon and the coast that you have to worry about those things.
Yeah.
We have scorpions in this area that are
bitty scorpions.
non-lethal.
They're the non-lethal.
They do hurt. They do hurt.
Little scorpions.
It's like a strong hornet.
Like
My
it can be
6-year-old son came, Daddy, look at this cool bug with a horn, and he comes running and he's got a little tiny little one-inch scorpion in his hand. I'm like, oh, okay, dude, and he just put it down and it didn't even sting him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So those exist. You're not dying from that. There are poisonous spiders and snakes that exist in this region. No one ever gets bit, or you never hear about anything like that, literally ever, as far as getting bit. You'll hear once in a while a story of someone saw, a snake or saw, something like that. But
I was gonna say I've seen 3 snakes in 5 years, and they were all along the river.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you get into Zamora, for example, that's different. If you're on the coast in certain areas, that's different. But in this region, nothing to worry about.
Yeah, we're hiking properties all of the time, and we never see any snakes on any of the properties. And we're like going through the bush all of the time. There's no snakes, so it's really a non-issue.
Yeah, I've been here a year and a half, and I've not seen a snake ever, and I've seen two scorpions, and they were literally this tiny in that whole time.
Yeah.
And nothing else.
I mean, I've been here 10 years. I have seen snakes a couple of times. But again, 10 years, like thousands of properties. I've seen one snake that scared the living crap out of me. But we also
Can you show us how that would what would that look like?
Right. But
I just did it. So
Okay.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but no, they're but yeah, they're not something you have to worry about. Okay, could you please sum up monthly costs? Did we do this already? No. Can you please sum up monthly costs of owning a smaller functional car, including insurance? Insurance we talked about a little bit. I know that many expats do not own a car in Ecuador, but I think in rural areas it is quite fine to do bigger shopping or activities by car. Is it really as dangerous as I often read from different expats? Let me cover that part first. I think it depends where you come from and are used to driving. So I was driving in New York for 20 years before I came here. I don't find it even weird how anyone drives here. I think people drive good, actually. I like the way people drive. They drive fast. They drive relatively aggressive.
Fast.
Or really slow.
Occasionally really slow, although that's usually an engine size issue. But I know for other people who might be from places where I think people are like very slow, or they're stopping all the time to check on a million things, or I don't know. I've heard lots of comments that Ecuadorians drive crazy. I don't know what you guys think about that, but
I mean, from Chicago, I'm similar. I'm used to people driving aggressively. I don't think I've felt unsafe driving. I don't have a car, been a year and a half, and I'm one of the expats that doesn't have a car, and it's great. But driving in other people's cars, I haven't felt unsafe. The one thing that I would question would be sometimes I see these big commuter buses, and they're pretty aggressive. So that seems like a little. Maybe not, but other than that,
no, that's true. If I had to say anything I've ever felt or seen that was unsafe, you get these roads where there's no pedestrian space to walk, but it's used as a pedestrian space to walk, and so you get used to it. And so that's why I didn't think of it. I don't even notice it anymore. You just cruise right by. But I remember at the beginning being like, "Wow, this is really dangerous." It's the van services between cities.
Maybe
we'll drive about 100 million miles an hour through the mountains, screeching tires and all that. It's like been the only time I've ever been nervous in a car was doing that one time. And then you'll see buses on these tiny little dirt roads in the mountains, crawling across the mountain on the edge of a cliff. But no, I mean, these are unique circumstances. In general, it's just normal driving like anywhere else.
It's normal driving between here and Loja. So if you move to Vilcabamba, you're going to make a 40-minute trek up to Loja to do maybe some shopping at the larger grocery store Super Maxi, and maybe some other stores you want to go shop at up there. I mean, if you're in town in Loja, it does take a second. People will kind of cut you off and flow around you and stuff. But
it's like city driving.
It's kind of like city driving that really is maybe a bit accelerated if you're not from a larger city. Like I drove in Seattle for many years, so I'm kind of like you guys, like this is nothing. So it just depends.
Right.
And so, as far, go ahead.
I just thought of the first time I was in a taxi in Ecuador. I looked at the speedometer because he's driving. We were in Quito, and he's driving, and it's pretty busy coming out of the airport. And I'm like, oh, he's pretty aggressive. Like, he's driving pretty aggressively, like it's like a city. And then I look at the speedometer. I'm like, he's going 120 miles an hour. Before it dawned on me that it's in kilometers.
Right.
So they were asking too about some of those costs to own a car. So again, right, to buy it is going to be a little more expensive. To own it is going to be much cheaper.
What's the cheapest car you can buy? Carl, you've owned a cheaper car. Why don't you tell us about that car? No, I mean, it's a small car, like a Geo Metro, if you guys know that kind of car, something like. It wasn't that.
Daewoo Matiz. I don't know if they even exist in the States.
I don't think so. Like a Geo Metro.
A little, like, I don't know, maybe 1,000 cc's or something.
We should try to get a picture of you in
but
that
they're
car.
still
Awesome.
not
Maybe
cheap.
there will be one.
Maybe there will be a picture of Carl
I
in
one.
Little Mustard, is what we call
right,
it.
the mustard seed, yeah.
How much did that cost? Did you already say?
5,500.
And that's really like the
cheapest car
you can get, and you're going to probably have to put a little bit of money into it,
Yeah.
maintenance wise. But yeah, that's kind of the bottom end.
Yeah.
Right, and then, go ahead.
Well, I would say, unless you're really on a tight budget, like you're better off buying something for double that. Like it will last for longer, and it will be better for the roads here. This was not a countryside car; it was really a city car.
Yeah.
Yeah, that like 8 to 20 grand or 10 to 18 or that you can find good used cars in that range.
Can you guys talk about some of the repairs and some of that, like the costs for mechanics and stuff? I don't have cars, so I don't even know.
Yeah, much cheaper. The only caveat to that is if it's a car that you have to import parts for, the parts will be more expensive because of some of the import taxes, but the labor
take forever to get here.
Depending,
like I've heard stories. You want to get a car here that they have a lot of, because then they're going to have a lot of those parts.
Sure.
And if it does need maintenance, you can get it done efficiently.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, but the labor more than offsets. I mean, the labor is so cheap, it's hard to understand how, how your bill is so low. And then again, insurance is optional. Could you talk about importing a car or camper van? Ecuador can't do it. So that's the short answer there. All right, here we go. The craziest question of the day, according to the question asker. What is the?
Well, this is super fan Brian Dixon.
There you go.
I know Brian. Brian's a great guy. Brian, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. What is the cost for building a 50 square meter post and beam deck 2 feet off the ground? What is the cost to build a 50 square meter cement foundation plumbed for 1 bathroom and 1 kitchen?
Wow.
I got
Somebody
this. I got this.
This?
Maybe you guys have been following me on my build series. I have a build series. Check it out. There'll be a playlist in the description. Hopefully we remember to do that. But I've been building a house, and Bob the builder, he's been building it. Great guy. And I asked him this question, and this is his answer. So this will be for you, Brian. It's exact. For a deck, I would use all metal with concrete pylons at a minimum, or concrete pylons with a base, depending on deck load and soil composition. I do not recommend wood or any structural components due to moisture and insect problems. If this is a deck only with no structure built on top, it is fairly straightforward and simple. Metal in Ecuador comes a standard length of 6 meters, so let's assume deck dimensions of 6 meter by 8.5 meter to keep costs down, with a center support beam and finished wood planks on top, and assuming the ground is level to start with and only needs minimal work, a deck that has a metal and concrete structure underneath with wood on top should cost around $5,000. This is with a 4 centimeter thick hardwood finish. This same deck, if reinforced and built with a concrete floor so that a house could be built on top, would be about $6,500. And if this were to be built as a pad on the ground with drainage plumbing for kitchen and bathroom, the cost would be around $4,500. And this would be my recommendation. And you could build 2 stories with no problem if you wanted to. So that's for you, Brian.
Thanks, Bob.
And that's, thanks, Bob. Yeah. That's clearly a doing it right high-end answer.
Yep.
So, we're sitting on a wooden structure here outside. They didn't spend that kind of money to do this.
Right. Yeah, that was 50 square meters. So actually, it seems like seems pretty cheap to me.
Yeah, okay.
I think it'd be reasonable. It's a reasonable thing.
Cool. Are there a variety of job opportunities for foreigners other than teaching English or Spanish? It's a great question. I mean, there's a lot of business opportunities. There's a lot of investment opportunities, entrepreneurial opportunities. The labor market in Ecuador is not fantastic to begin with. It's okay. It's not amazing to begin with. And as a foreigner, you're not going to have the social connections. If you don't have the language skills, of course, that's going to be another barrier. So coming here looking for work, not that it can't be done, but would probably be more difficult than where you come from. The wage scale as well is low. But I mean, that's more than offset by entrepreneurial opportunities that are available here. And then certainly in expat communities, you know, foreigners come and work for other expats. You see that pretty commonly.
That's really happening here, I think, pretty well. Like a lot of our clients even have come down and started little businesses, and you know, people who have a trade or a craft are able to enter into Vilcabamba, into this expat community, and provide that trade or service and actually make a living. Now, of course, you're not gonna be a millionaire living here. Obviously, not. It's not like that, but it's a lifestyle thing. So you can have a lifestyle business. You know, there's a lot of opportunity to start a restaurant. I mean, we've talked about this many times before. Talk to us if you want to start a restaurant, because we'll tell you what kind of restaurant, how to do it. And I think that there's still a lot of room to grow there. And again, just you know, what trade or service do you have? Ask us. Reach out to us at info@abecuador.com. and we'll let you know if we think something like that would go here, because this is a growing community, and I think there's going to be more and more opportunity and potential for work here.
And there truly are a tremendous amount of lifestyle business opportunities here. There's so many things that people, particularly expats, want, that maybe aren't being served here very well. So there's tons of opportunities for lifestyle businesses.
Yeah, and this is kind of random. I was speaking to someone today. Their husband is going to come down. Their husband works for a programming company. They like programmers, and they were going to open up an office in India, and he wants to move to Ecuador. So he's like, I want to open one in Ecuador, and he got the approval. So he wants to open up hiring locals or expats. They have to be English speakers, actually. So they're looking for a team of programmers. So if you're a programmer, want to move here, there might be some opportunities. But you can work online as a programmer anywhere in the world. But yeah, interesting.
The economy definitely has gotten more dynamic since I've been here, you know, going on 10 years. And there are more opportunities like that than there used to be, for sure. Is there any baseball in Ecuador? Not to speak of. They don't play baseball here. There is, I have seen baseball played in Guayaquil. There recently, one of our team members sent us some video of, I guess a youth baseball league that they're starting in Loja. But it's not, you know, it's not much of a sport here. I think baseball and live blues music is most of what I would miss. Any live blues, for sure. I'm in Loja. I'm in Vilcabamba. You'll find some of that stuff. Vilcabamba is a very vibrant arts and music scene. There's always live music going on. But in Loja as well, which is known to be, you know, known for its arts and music, there's live music every week, all the time. And there's blues bands. There's Latin blues bands. There's sort of U.S. style musical blues bands. You'll find that stuff in Loja pretty commonly.
Yeah, we're going to see, my family and I are going to see Patty on the Keys at Vilca Garden tonight.
There you go.
All right, what is the minimum size land purchase? There's no minimum size legally that you can buy. So I mean, you could buy a 50 square meter lot if it's been subdivided that way. There's certainly zoning in lots of areas that make smaller properties uncommon, but that's very region by region. So typically in this region, in rural areas, most of your lots will be about 2,500 square meters as a minimum. As you get closer to the town, those numbers go down. As you get into the city or the town, you know, you commonly have lots as small as 200 square meters and even smaller. But legally there is no minimum size.
Right.
How is the process to build a house on your own land? What about owning land and lease it out for someone else to farm on it?
I wonder if anybody was building a house on their own land. I don't know.
Yeah, Jesse and I are both doing that.
Whoa.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, there's no, the process, and again, this is region by region, so it's municipio by municipio or canton by canton. In this canton, you are supposed to get construction permits, even in rural areas. A lot of people don't, but you are supposed to. That is not a super difficult process. You hire an architect, he draws up the plans, he goes through the process with the municipio. It takes a couple of months, and you'll have your approvals. From there, you're not dealing with inspectors and a million, all kinds of red tape. So that's all you have to do is get your permits. From there, you build your house. So I don't know if you're referring to the build process.
Well, and
if you want to jump into that.
Well, I was just gonna say, I'll be clear. Like, they don't actually inspect it all. So if you get your building permit, which is, well, not all Ecuadorians get building permits, right? Like, a lot of Ecuadorians build without permits. So if you get the building permit, like that's like nice, big thumbs up. But they're not sending out inspectors to make sure that everything is done the way that you have presented, or to code, or to anything. Like, they literally never show up afterwards. So if that tells you anything, you can kind of build whatever it is you like. I mean, obviously, if you're building something right along a main road, they're gonna that. You're gonna flag somebody down. But a lot of people are just building humble homes out in rural Vilcabamba, and everything's all good.
Yeah.
The other part of that question was about leasing land for someone else to farm. You definitely can do that. It's not going to be financially rewarding in any sort of significant way. It's more a way to have your land well maintained and cared for. You can make a little money if it's a sizable piece of land. So, for example, a very common practice here is I provide the land. Being the landowner, I provide the land. Farmer, you provide the growing of the crops, and we split the profit. That's a very common arrangement here. So, usually those crops are pretty low margin crops. Usually it's corn, or it's beans, or it's things like, so you're not making a ton of money, but you could do deals like that with better crops, higher margin crops, and do quite well financially if you found the right partner. But that is pretty common here in Ecuador.
Another thing that people do is, if you have a lot of land and it's mountains and it's grass, you can rent the land to cattle farmers, and they'll put their cows on there. And if you have a lot of hectares, you can actually, it could be significant.
Yeah, Ecuador is significant. Yeah,
right.
Ecuador is significant.
This is like $100 per cow, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, usually it's like per hectare. Yeah, which is about per cow. But yeah. Okay, could you please give us a view on Ecuador's economy, the current inflation, and rough forecasts? As Ecuador has the U.S. dollar, in what way is the Ecuadorian currency tied to the U.S. economy and currency? Is it independent from the U.S.? You want to shoot that?
Yeah, this is an interesting one for me, just moving here. They are on the dollar. We use the dollar everywhere, but they should do a case study on Ecuador versus the U.S. versus Panama, other places that use the dollar, because it's the same paper, it's the same coins, but the value's different here. The value is different here relative to the States, and I've gone back multiple times, and it's really interesting to see. And maybe part of it is that in the United States, the U.S. government can print money. In Ecuador, they don't have the printing press, they don't have the access to the Federal Reserve, so they can't print their own money. So the money they have, for the most part, is the money that's in circulation. So it's an interesting dynamic on how the value of the dollar here relative to this value of the dollar in the States, and the same products it can buy here versus there, it's much different. The dollar here is much stronger than the States. So even as, I guess the dollar's getting stronger globally as the macroeconomic situation is played out, but particularly here, it's not, we don't see those daily machinations. We don't see you don't see the same inflation impact here. I mean, you see prices go up. I mean, minimum wage for Ecuadorians, I think in 2023 is going up to $450 a month. Is that right?
From what, 425?
From 425.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a relative sizable increase, but the cost of things is so much less here, because the value of the dollar is not, I would say, is not really tied to the U.S. economy right now.
Yeah. Yeah, the only things that are more expensive here are imported goods.
Right.
Everything that's produced in Ecuador is much cheaper than it would be
Right.
elsewhere.
I mean, if we're talking about change in prices, right, we hear, people in the U.S. and Europe and other places are, you hear a lot of talk about inflation, like life and prices are getting very expensive, and they're going up significantly year over year. Food items and sort of consumer goods and all kinds of stuff. So in Ecuador, I mean, Carl, you've been here a year or two longer than me. I mean, I've been here 10 years at this point. Like, have prices gone up in those 10 years? Sure. But wow, a very small amount. I mean, a very, very small amount. I mean, when I got here, you know, your taxi ride was maybe 50 cents cheaper than it is now,
right.
In Loja 10 years ago, you know. And you know, you're for most part the food is all about the same. I mean, you're still spending, you know, 25 cents on the same amount of cilantro and you know, all those kinds of things. So yeah, there's been some change in price, but man, it's not you know, get upset like about time.
It's nothing like the U.S. right now with food prices. I keep hearing it's like, I heard yesterday Panera Bread guy going to Panera Bread, just what, like last year or something like that, was, you know, $8-9, but now it's like $15-16, like less than a year later.
Yeah, meat prices are way different here than there. I just went back to the States a few months ago, actually heading back in a week, so I can give you guys some more real-time updates on food, because we're going to be there for 3 weeks, so I'll be eating out. But the meat prices here are ridiculously less expensive, and the meat's good. The meat's clean. You're getting free range, organic chicken.
Just to give people, people an idea on that, for beef, basically, I mean, you can find it more expensive if you go to Supermax or other places, but you're basically between like $2 and $5 a pound. That covers your whole range of quality to the highest quality.
Right, and you're getting filet and ribeye for that price.
Yeah, a ribeye steak, I mean, at Supermax, I think it's $6 a pound, but still.
Right. And if you go to the market, it'd be $4.
Right. And fresher.
And better. Just gotta let the guys are here to install another internet.
Let's talk about internet. No one asked about it.
Well, hold on. Let's finish this, because they were asking about. They were asking also about the Ecuadorian economy, and I just have to say, so the Ecuadorian economy is okay. It's in decent shape. It's better than most of the 10 years I've been here. A lot of that, unfortunately, is tied to the political situation. So we'll see how that goes here in the next years. You do have larger changes in the economy based on politics than you do back home. Yeah. So right now, you know, things are pretty good. We have stability. My dog's gonna eat the internet, people. We have stability.
She's like this tall.
Right. Hey, don't tell anybody. But yeah, so it's a pretty strong economy at the moment. Okay, you wanted to jump into something?
No, I mean, the internet guys came and they just hooked up internet for me, and it was a $20 service fee, and it's $28 a month for 75 megabytes per second. We have brand new fiber optic lines that have been spread out through all of Vilcabamba and the surrounding communities in the last couple of years. You know, it was like, what, 3 or 4 companies that like raced to the market. So everything's clean, brand new. Yeah, really dependable internet.
Internet's awesome here. When we first came over, I was working remotely with a U.S. company, and I needed to have reliable internet. Internet was better than where I was. I was living outside of Chicago in a more rural area, and I had more reliable internet moving to the freaking sleepy village in the Andes Mountains than I did out of Chicago.
We were having Zoom calls, and like the 3 of us were on, and you kept dropping off. Right. Like, dude, this guy in Chicago.
I've heard it's not safe to buy a big parcel of land and live outside city limits. Is this true? I've also heard a lot of natives don't like gringos. What's your thoughts? Yeah, so I mean, first of all, no, it's absolutely not true. I mean, in general, there's your risks in the cities are much higher than outside of them, probably like most places in the world. Yeah. You know, Guayaquil is a relatively dangerous city, for example. Loja is extremely safe city. You know, Loja is not a city where you have to be concerned about your security. It's the world, so you occasionally things happen, but it's a very, very safe city. Vilcabamba and all these towns are very safe towns. Being far out just brings sort of a different set of security concerns, but probably more safe as opposed to less safe in general. But you know, if you were in the absolute middle of nowhere, sure, you'd want to have some precautions in the sense of you have neighbors, you have a dog, you have just sort of, you know, maybe a camera or, you know, just some way of sort of monitoring your property a little bit, like you would anywhere in the world. If you're in the town or the city, I mean, you're living like everyone else lives. Again, in general, is a very, very safe country, and then this is also the second safest region in Ecuador, the Amazonian region being the safest. You can add on that, guys?
Well, I thought it was an interesting question that natives, which would mean Ecuadorians, don't like gringos. That's definitely a generalized statement. I would say it's not true at all. I have a lot of Ecuadorian friends. Ecuadorians like us a lot, actually.
They really do. Yeah.
But I would say, like, if Americans already don't like you, then probably Ecuadorians won't like you either.
That's right.
You know?
Right.
If you're not a likable person, if you mistreat people, if you disrespect people, if you're, you know, if you get angry and you get impatient in some situations, like, yeah, they will have animosity towards you, whether you're a gringo or you're an Ecuadorian. And there are gringos who have behaved like this. So yeah, there might be some circumstances where they have a negative bias, because that's what they've experienced with some gringos. But I would say that, yeah, I have positive interactions with Ecuadorians every day.
Yeah.
Lots of friends, like family. They come for dinner, they invite us for dinner. Like,
They're awesome.
Dude,
yeah.
It's like the most loving. If I had to generalize, they're so loving and caring and familial and helpful. Like, it's like the opposite.
Right.
It's the opposite.
It's so true. Yeah, I mean, you just got to come down here to check it out, see for yourself. But, yeah, nobody experiences, like, harsh, intense, you know, just anger because we're expats living in Vilcabamba. They generally like asking us questions, and they want to know more about us, and they ask where we're from, and they want to engage. If that animosity existed, we would never see that, and I experience that daily. And of course, we're real estate agents, and we're the ones, you know, like going around asking if your property's for sale, or you know, like selling properties, and we don't get any kickback. They love us.
I would even say sometimes we get treated better.
Sure.
In some instances.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
in the city, or, you know, they think there might be some good opportunities to know a gringo, to find, you know, work opportunities and things, so we can get treated well in some cases. Yeah.
Just to circle back on the safety, just to close that out. You know, growing up in Chicago and then moving further out of the city, you know, that I felt safe in all these places. But when you think about like crime or violent crime or theft or any of this kind of thing, it's like relative to the quantity and the probability of it happening. And here, of course it happens. There's people that do bad things different places all over the world, right? But here, I haven't felt safer. I allow my kids to do things that I would never let them do anywhere that I've lived in the United States, that I'd let them do here, because it's that safe. It's that there's the community looks after people. The shop owners look after my kids, or they tell me, hey, you know, Jimmy over there, watch out, you know, like he's kicking a ball. Like they care about the community. So I don't know, it's felt much more safe for me and my family in allowing my kids to have more freedom to play and do things that probably we did when we were kids, riding our bikes and being outside and spending time like that. Here, I don't have those concerns like I would have in the States.
yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to say also, like, a word of advice, right? I think there is certain people that come here and they have this preconceived notions that Ecuadorians don't like them because they've read it on the internet on some forum or something, right? True. And then they assume the worst. They assume that when an Ecuadorian, like, they don't understand the language, they assume that they're getting ripped off. They assume, and they create this thing, and that's happened to people where that's probably why you read that type of stuff on the internet, that locals don't like us. You know, these guys, they're Ecuadorians, they're smiling at us, they want to talk to us. Like, people, yeah. Anyways, Ecuadorians are wonderful.
Yeah. That's right.
No, that's great advice. Next question is we got a swimmer who would like to do some swimming in Vilcabamba and would like to understand options.
I mean,
Can't swim in the rivers, really? Well, you can a little bit.
Oh, dude, I swim in the river. That's what I'm.
Yeah, I know, the creek.
There's actually there's quite a few areas where you can swim against the current in these streams that actually gain magnitude and become small rivers. Depends on if it's the rainy season, the dry
You took
season.
me there. I'm giving you a hard time, but
No,
you
that's
took me
only
there.
that's only one.
I know, but I have swam in the river.
This guy. you can actually legitimately swim against the current, and oftentimes because it's not a rushing river, it's the perfect, it's going at the perfect speed that if you just have a nice stroke, you can just stay, you can be in place or go faster and go upstream and then kind of like ease off a little bit and then go at it harder again. And you can literally just go and go and go. And these are clean, pristine rivers. So while we don't have the lakes that are close by, except if you want to hike up and they're really high in altitude and really freezing cold, it's going to be the river or, I don't know, the zoo, the pools.
Yeah,
the zoo,
so there's a lot of, there's public pools like at the zoo, and then there's a million hosterias, a million sort of weekend resort places that have pools that you can pay as little as $2 up to about $8 or so to get in, depending on the place. And they usually have a steam room as well and a sauna, and you can swim. In Loja, there are larger pools. They're asking about professional pools. I assume that means maybe like an Olympic pool or something. So there's larger ones in Loja. The largest one here is probably Piedra de Loja, I would imagine. It's pretty big.
It has great food too, by the way.
Yeah. Is it good?
Well, I was gonna say if you end up buying a property, we have we know some properties where there's constant running water. You can create a pond or a small lake for yourself to be able to swim. That's not a chlorinated pool or something like that.
And people do freshwater pools here all over the place. So you can actually have a pool that has it's a fresh water that's filtered with plants, and they're really sweet.
Yeah, natural pools.
Natural pools.
Pools.
Saltwater pools here too.
Yeah.
Is it common for single female foreigners to come to your area alone?
All the time.
I would say it's as common as anywhere else in the world that you would travel to.
There are a lot.
There are a lot of single women that travel here. I mean, I see them all the time. We've been in contact with a lot of them that come through and are looking at properties. Ecuador is really generalized as a non-violent culture. So it's not a culture where it's just a ton of violence and a ton of crime against women or all those types of thing and in the daylight and all of this stuff. You get yourself out 2 o'clock in the morning and you've been out in Loja or something and you're a single woman, and what are you doing out? But on the streets, Vilcabamba, Loja, single woman walking around, you're gonna have a great time. And you're not going to feel unsafe at all.
Right, exactly. Just like you said, like Guayaquil, like there's some big cities where it's not safe for me to walk around, at night, right?
In certain parts.
Yeah, certain parts.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Certain parts. Yeah.
Right.
So like any major
like any
city
big city.
So to sum that up, it'd be like, so all the single ladies, put your hands up.
We need a podcast where you just sing, and Carl can sing too. If you want a singing podcast, let us know.
Yeah, thumbs up if you want a singing podcast.
Yeah, hit a thumbs up on this video if you want a singing podcast. If we get 100 likes on this video, well, no, it's got to be a little bit more than that. 200 likes on this video, we'll do a singing podcast.
Don't put that.
Are you singing? You're gonna sing?
I will be absent.
We got to.
You can play the bongo.
All right, I'll do.
We'll sing a song.
All right.
Yeah, we'll sing. Yeah, but that's going to be singing on a podcast.
Nice.
You want to see it?
Jesse's a lyricist, closet lyricist, so he'll write the song that we sing.
All right, 200 likes, guys. Let's see it.
Are all COVID travel restrictions still lifted? Yes. Yep. How to find out and identify the real value of properties as a foreigner and gringo? How do you identify that a property has no gringo price? If you're interested in buying a property or land, and ask about the price. How to find the right price information. Yeah, so I mean, again, we covered this a little bit earlier, but unfortunately, until you know the market, you don't have a way to know prices. It took me a long time to learn the market, in the areas I work in. I would lean on, like if you're not in our area, you're looking at other areas, I would definitely lean on people who you can check their references, have a good understanding that these are scrupulous people who know the market, and at the end of the day, you're going to have to trust them a little bit. You can do your own market research a bit if you want, right? Just by going out and seeing properties, so you can get an idea of prices that way. But there's some nuance that would take some time to figure out. So I would lean on some scrupulous people, who can guide you in the right direction on prices.
Yeah, and I would say there is a misconception that gringo price is like this common thing that always happens, and there's a local price and there's a gringo price for every property. Like, that's really not how it is. And you know, you have now quite a few years of experience in real estate, and there are some local people who pay higher prices than gringos for certain properties. Like that was news to me. I believed that before. All the gringos are being ripped off. Now, yeah, so the local Lojanos, for example, in our area, affect the market significantly. They want to have summer homes, vacation homes, weekend homes, so they buy properties for higher prices in some instances. And but you know, it's true that if you show up at a property on your own, they see you're a gringo, and you know, you don't speak the language, they might give you like the price that they're willing to negotiate lower.
The aspirational.
Yeah,
price.
the aspirational price. Right? Like that's
and they would do that also if the guy showed up in a nice truck from Quito.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Like they would do the same thing. Yeah. I mean, right. So there's a little bit of a dance there, but that's a good point. How is the political situation there and markets, as well as, I guess, the situation on violent crime versus petty theft? So right now we have a sort of center-right president, former banker, businessman, business-friendly, capital-friendly. So that's the current political situation. I don't know. I've heard some predictions it's going to swing the other way in the next election. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see how that goes. You know, we're not Ecuadorian. We're not political insiders. You know, who knows? But right now things are stable, and that's the political direction of the country. Yeah, the real estate market, at least in this region, has been steadily and slowly climbing over the last, I'd say since the beginning of 2017, really, and probably picking up pace a bit starting somewhere maybe mid or towards the end of 2020. But we're not booming, and you know, we're booming for here versus some years prior, but we're not booming in ways that U.S. markets can boom. Mostly that's because we're not fueled by debt and debt cycles here in the real estate market, but the market is fairly strong for here, which again does not mean strong for back home where there's bidding wars and properties are getting sold within days of listing and things like that. That we're not in that market here at this point, but we're in a much stronger market than we were in 15, 16 and prior to that. Violent crime versus petty theft. Anyone want to?
I mean, petty theft is common in Ecuador. I'd say that's one of the most common things that I advise people about when they're here is don't leave your cell phone on the table and go in and pay inside or something if you were sitting outside. You know, I mean,
you wouldn't do that in Chicago.
You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that anywhere. But I mean, like generally, like I would say a decent amount of people would be very tempted to grab it and put it in their pocket and go. You know, a little less fortunate, probably think, oh, that person has money to have that type of phone, I'm going to put it in my pocket, whatever the justification is. But again, this isn't a violent culture, therefore violent crime in this region is rare.
Yep. All right, well, our last question is also a crime question. We've probably touched on all of this. I'm telling you guys, a lot of this stuff comes from the movies. It comes from the movies. Like, I grew up watching Hollywood. I never traveled really as a kid to Latin America, and I thought it was tacos and angry people that were gonna rob me. It's just not. So last question is also about crime. I think we pretty much covered it, but violent crime specifically in this community, there's been a handful of incidents over the years. In general, again, I think this is an extraordinarily safe region. You guys have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, like I don't want us to people to represent us like violent crime is non-existent and never happens. Like there has been a few instances, they're isolated instances. It's all very uncommon statistically. It's probably less than most U.S. cities. Like statistically, I'm sure.
It is, yeah.
But because it's a small community, there's all the expats here. We all know about every time it happens. Everyone knows about it the next day. So it's kind of a thing, and people get worried, and you do need some basic security measures, and part of it is like how you behave in the community, having good relationship with your neighbors. Like just that by itself will keep you safe, I think, from most violent crime.
Which is just being
Like
a
home
good
invasions
human,
and stuff.
you know, being a good human like you would anywhere. Yeah, you still have your friends with your neighbors at home, and you're good in the community, but you still have an ADT system, or you still have a, you know, ring system, and you lock your doors at night. Like, of course,
You
right?
have a guard dog. That's very common here. So, you know, the Lojanos put bars on their windows. Not everybody has bars on their windows, but you know, if you don't live here for the whole week, you only come on the weekends. Like the Lojanos, they'll put bars on their windows because it's easy to break a window, right? You know, a few things like that. Some type of alarm system. Any deterrent. You just want to put a few deterrents on your house for, like, not, you know, you don't want to be a target. And yeah, like part of the question is like, it sounds like we say that this is a paradise sanctuary and these kinds of things never happen. That's not the case. They do happen periodically, very rare. Never happened to any of us, right? And you know.
Well, and really, just to clarify, like, we love this place.
Right.
Our families love this place. You know, we all have friends and we enjoy what we're doing. And you know, I think it is a statistic thing. So for us, when we see things sensationalized on Facebook groups and different things, like if a violent crime is to happen against an expat in our community, it seems to get blown up, and then all of a sudden we're supposed to respond as if of what? Like we're still not enjoying our time here and having all of this stuff go on around us that we love and enjoy when there are isolated events. So potentially that's why we don't address that here much on our channel. But if you're going to move to a Latin American country, you're certainly going to want to do your homework as to why are there bars on the windows. It's because potentially someone less fortunate is going to want what's inside. And that's with a lot of Latin American countries. This isn't something different here in Vilcabamba.
Sure.
Well, that's it for the day, guys. That's our Q&A. Again, I would encourage you to check out the retreat, link below. The next one is coming up at the end of December, just after Christmas. We'd love to see you down here. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.
See ya.
Ciao.